Rise up front, please. Thank you. This is a real sellout crowd today. We appreciate everyone coming out. We're sorry for those who might not have a chair. There'll be a little bit of musical chairs going on. We do have, it looks like 2 seats up front if you want, and there's a couple more. So my name is Bob Zog. I'm a Carlisle resident, and I'm also chair of the Carlisle Energy Task Force, and I'm, of course, a member of the Heat Smart Alliance. Hopefully everyone is signed in. If you haven't signed in, please, after our presentation, do that. We want to capture everyone's name. We're not going to sell or otherwise send out your contact information. So just so you know what we're planning to do today, I'm going to talk for maybe 20 minutes max, just to give you a top-level notion of what heat pumps are, and why we think they're important. Then we'll have our installers introduce themselves very briefly, just a 2-minute synopsis on themselves and their organizations. And then we get to the fun part where we open it up for you to go to the tables, to talk to the installers, talk to the volunteers, talk to the Concord Light Plant, and try to get all your questions answered. So that's the game plan. We want to get through this stuff quickly. So I am going to ask that you hold your questions on the presentation until we do the tabling. I'm going to stay for the duration, so hopefully we'll get all your questions answered. Great, so let's get going. So the mission of the Heat Smart Alliance is to lower carbon emissions by accelerating the adoption of heat pumps in residences and buildings throughout Massachusetts. We do this primarily through education and one-on-one coaching, but we also aspire to advocate and influence. We're being deliberately vague on exactly what that means because we're still figuring that part out, but at least we're starting with the education and coaching. We're primarily a volunteer team, although the Concord Light Plant is involved, and also we have a representative from the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. We are growing rapidly. We're now up to 16 Metro West communities. We have no idea where this is going to stop, but it's really been incredible. Many of these communities have been involved in the past in the Heat Smart Mass program. The Heat Smart Mass program is sponsored by the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, and the Heat Smart Alliance is separate from that, although we do maintain close relationships with Mass CEC. So it is a separate effort. It's an ongoing effort. It's not a snapshot in time where we go for 6 months and stop. We're going to try to do this for the long haul. We have a fledgling website, heatsmartalliance.org. Please visit it. We're going to develop it and fill it out over time as our volunteer labor force can accommodate. So home heating and cooling is important. And on the left-hand side of this chart, we're showing the New England, total energy use in New England. Fully 30% of our energy use in New England is associated with our homes. And this does not include transportation. This is just our houses. You take that 30% and split it out, and over 60% is home heating and cooling. Another 17% is water heating. Another couple percent for clothes drying. All those loads, totaling about 80% of the energy we use in our homes, can be addressed with heat pumps. So it's a big deal. And heat pumps are essential to achieving major reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. There's just no way to get there without heat pumps. And if you want to do your part, and we hope you all do, there's really 3 primary steps to take with your home. Step number 1 is to weatherize. That means air seal, insulate to the extent practical, perhaps even put in better windows, that sort of thing. Step number 2 is electrify. That means switch from fossil fuels for running your appliances to using electrical appliances. This is where heat pumps come in. They're electrically driven, but they're a very energy efficient way of providing heating, cooling, and other services in our homes. Third step, is shift to 100% renewable electricity. Now, if you live in Concord, that's already happening, because Concord's made a commitment to shift to 100% green renewable energy. If you're in another community, you still have access. You can do it by putting solar panels on your home, but if you can't or won't do that, you can buy 100% renewable electricity through your utility. And the volunteers here today would be happy to help step you through that. So what is a heat pump? A heat pump is a mechanical device that pumps heat from a cooler place to a warmer place. We all know intuitively that heat flows naturally downhill, which is from a warm place to a cool place. But if we want it to go in the opposite direction, we have to put energy into it, and we have to use a mechanical device. Now, we already use heat pumps in our homes, although we don't call them heat pumps. The same basic technology used in the heat pumps is also used in refrigerators, dehumidifiers, air conditioners. So this is not really new. This has been around for a long time. What's new is that the equipment's now suitable to heat our homes and cool our homes. It's available, as I just mentioned, for home heating and cooling. That's the same heat pump, does heating and cooling. They're available for water heating. They're even available for clothes drying and pool heating if you happen to have a pool in your backyard. Now this illustration shows just very conceptually how a heat pump works. You take a unit of electricity that we might get from the grid or your solar panels, and that unit of electricity is used to pump, let's say, another 2 units of heat from the outdoors into our home. And in this example, that means we get a total of 3 units of energy delivered to heat our home when we only paid for 1 unit of energy, and only 1 unit of energy had an environmental impact. So this is how heat pumps leverage the heat that is available, even if it's 0 degrees outside, there's still some heat in the air, to get heat into your home. And they work just the opposite way in the summertime for cooling. So this is how heat pumps can get efficiencies of 300% or higher. And sometimes it's hard to understand how anything can be more than 100% efficient. Some of you may have heard bad things about heat pumps in the past. Perhaps you've had some bad experiences yourself. The technology has come a long way. Yesterday's heat pump is not today's heat pump. Today's heat pumps work really well in cold New England climates, even colder climates in Canada and Alaska. They are very effective at low temperatures. They deliver warm, comfortable air, and they're highly reliable. So what's in it for you if you get a heat pump? Probably one of the most important things is you get superior comfort, both winter and summer. Modern heat pumps operate at variable speed. That means they dial right in to the amount of heat or cooling your home needs at any point in time. There's none of this on-off, on-off, on-off stuff with fluctuations in temperature that your body is really, really sensitive to. So comfort is one of the key drivers. Of course, there's substantial greenhouse gas reduction benefits as well. Energy costs savings vary depending on what fuel you compare to. They're quite significant compared to using conventional electric heat or propane. They're somewhat modest compared to fuel oil, and there's still heat pumps are based on today's prices. Natural gas is still a little bit cheaper than a heat pump, at least an air source heat pump. They're also safer. There's absolutely no risk of carbon monoxide poisoning and very little risk of a fire. So we'll talk first about air source heat pumps. Air source heat pumps come in 2 basic varieties. On the right of this chart, we show the central ducted heat pump. The central ducted heat pump looks a lot like a conventional central air conditioner. Typically has a single outdoor unit that is connected via refrigerant lines to an indoor air handling unit that's typically in your basement. That air handling unit provides either warm air or cool air to ductwork in your home, and that air ductwork distributes the cool or heated air to your home. On the flip side, we have the ductless systems, and they too have an outdoor unit that's connected to an indoor unit, but this time the indoor units are right in the rooms that are being heated or cooled. Now, sometimes these are what we call mini split systems that have one outdoor unit connected to one indoor unit. Sometimes there's one outdoor unit connected to a multitude of indoor units. So they can heat multiple rooms or cool multiple rooms with one outdoor unit. And those indoor units come in all kinds of configurations. Most mount on the wall, but they can also be ceiling recessed, mount on the floor, a number of different configurations. Also, there are systems that actually blend characteristics of the central ducted systems with the ductless technology. So there's quite a few variations available today. But which of these two air source heat pumps would be best for your home? Well, there's several considerations here. On the side of the ductless heat pumps, these are a great solution when there's no existing ductwork in the home. They do not require ductwork, and so they work well with hydronic heating systems. They are great for additions or problem rooms because they are inherently a room-by-room solution, and they also provide really good zone control. And they may or may not use your existing system, your existing heating system for supplemental backup heating. It can be done both ways, typically, depending on your preferences and how well insulated and sealed your home is. On the side of the central ducted heat pumps, they tend to be the lowest cost whole house solution if you have suitable ductwork in place. They are also get away from a few aesthetic considerations. They don't require any refrigerant lines run on the outside of your home. They also don't require putting any equipment on the walls in your home. So they would use typically an indoor air handling unit, as we discussed. They do generally include an optional backup heating system that's typically conventional electric heat, but they can also be coupled with a fossil fuel furnace as well for backup heat. And the controls integration with the backup heating system and the heat pump is very straightforward and works very well in these systems. Now we're going to talk through just a quick example, just one example of some of the energy costs and also the greenhouse gas emissions associated with air source heat pumps. This is one example. This is not for your home in particular, so keep that in mind. Now, these charts, I realize there's a lot of information up there. The upper bars on these charts represent Concord electricity rates. The lower bars represent Eversource electricity rates. And of course, those rates won't change over time. But if you look at the left side in the annual energy costs, you can see versus propane or electric resistance, the heat pump is saving something like 30 to 60% of the cost of heating your home. Now, when you compare it to fuel oil, in the upper end of that range, by the way, is Concord, because currently Concord's electric rates are a little lower than Eversource. If you look at fuel oil, the difference is more like 5 to 30%, so it's more modest. And then, as I mentioned earlier, for natural gas, that's still a little bit cheaper to heat your home than an air source heat pump. However, when you look at the right side of this chart where we talk about emissions, the picture is quite different. Compared to all these different fuel options, the heat pump will save you 50 to 80% on your emissions. 50 to 80%, and again, the higher end of that range is for Concord residents who currently have a higher portion of renewable energy in their mix. Now, if you procure your electricity from 100% renewable sources, that savings goes to 100%. So this is where we really get the big impact. We'll talk briefly, just very briefly, about two other types of heat pumps. Probably, certainly the ultimate heat pump to get is a ground source heat pump. They're also called geothermal or geo-exchange heat pumps. The primary difference is that a ground source heat pump extracts heat from the ground as opposed to just taking it from the outdoor air. While it makes the system a little bit more expensive, it gives you a great efficiency and performance advantage because the ground stays at about 50 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, which makes it a great source for heating, makes it a great source for cooling. Also, there's no equipment outside your home. There's no boxes, no nothing. Everything outside your home is below grade, it's buried. Generally speaking, a ground source heat pump requires ductwork in your home. The installation can disrupt your landscaping a bit, so you want to make sure you understand the implications. You might need to do a little bit of work to clean up, do a little landscaping after they're done putting in the boreholes and other things that need to go in. Now the costs are of course high, but offsetting that, the incentives available are also higher. So there's still a first cost penalty, but you really don't have to pay all of that yourself. Another very important technology is water heating. There are heat pump water heaters. They're also called hybrid water heaters. Now, frankly, for a lot of people, these are a slam dunk. And it's a little surprising they're not more popular already. But a heat pump water heater will save over 60% of your energy and your carbon emissions compared to conventional water heating. The paybacks are very fast compared to conventional electric heating. Now they do extract heat from your home or your basement, and you may be worried about that, but the impacts of that are really less than you might imagine, and that 60% savings accounts for those impacts on your heating loads. They also require space for air circulation. So if your water heater's in a tight utility closet, you may not be a great candidate, but if you got a water heater in an open basement, that works great. There is a little bit of noise emitted by a heat pump water heater, but I tell you, they're quieter than a dehumidifier. It's only an issue if your water heater is right next to a bedroom, for example. So it's a great technology. In some cases, not most necessarily, in some cases you might want to bump up the tank size a little bit, because the heat pump water heater has a little bit lower capacity than your previous water heater. So if you're heating especially if you're heating with electricity right now, get one of these. Don't wait for your existing water heater to fail, because then it's going to be an emergency replacement. You won't have time to figure it out. So replace it early and go with a heat pump water heater. I don't want to go through the incentives in detail right now. We have a handout that will provide some links and give you some details. There's a lot out there. And the big two important things to remember: one, there's a lot out there, a lot of different organizations. Make sure you're aware of all the incentives available. Two, if you live in Concord, the incentives available to you are different than if you get your electricity from National Grid or Eversource. So please be sure to go to the Concord Light Plant website or talk to Jan from the Concord Light Plant, and she'll point you in the right direction. Another thing to be aware of, if you're thinking about a ground source heat pump, the federal tax credit, which is a substantial benefit, is scheduled to expire at the end of 2020. And it takes a while to get one of these systems, selected and sized and get the contract signed and all that. So keep that in mind. It's time's running out on that one. So what do you need to do to get started? First, you're doing the right thing by coming here, and hopefully at these tables you'll be able to get additional information to answer your questions. Also, the handout we have available will give you some additional web resources that you can look up. Next thing to do is get an energy audit on your home. And based on that energy audit, weatherize your home to the extent that it's practical. It's important to do that step first before you make a major investment in your heating and cooling system. Then, in many of our communities, we have coaches available, and again, we'll be here at the tables. You can talk to us, and we'll try to step you through. Time availability is a constraint, of course, but we'll try to step you through the process and answer your questions and work with you one-on-one to figure out what's best for you. And we do recommend that you talk to multiple installers and get at least a couple of quotes. Every home is unique, every situation is unique, and the best installer for your neighbor may not be the best installer for you. Okay, that's all I'm going to say right now. What I'd like to do is ask our installers to all come up to the front right now. and we'll have each of them introduce themselves briefly. While they're coming up, I just want to point out that just as a policy, the Heat Smart Alliance does not vet and endorse particular installers or products. However, we are very grateful to have these installers here today or taking their time out to help educate you, so please take advantage of them. And so, gentlemen, if you could just step up in the order that your organization is here and just introduce yourself and your organization in 2 minutes, that would be great. Thank you.
Dan, I represent Rodenheiser Home Services out of Holliston. I've been in business about 90 years and have been servicing this area for a long time. We specialize in air source heat pumps, ductless central air, and water heaters as well. And we're very well versed in all of the incentive programs. And like we were talking about just a minute ago, every home is very unique, so best possible thing ultimately to do is to have any of the gentlemen here and myself come out and kind of explore your situation, your goals, and come up with some custom solutions. So look forward to talking with all of you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Russell Katz. I'm the one on the bottom. I represent water heaters, heat pump water heaters. We have 3 different companies we represent: A.O. Smith, State, American Water Heaters. All 3 brands are made in different factories, but it's all the same components, all the same product. Ultimately, our product is something you put in your basement. You need a 10 by 10 by 8 room is gonna make it work most efficiently. Standard heat pump water heater can get up to 356% efficient, whereas standard water heater is all the way down here at 94%. So ultimately, this is about savings, whether it's through Concord Energy or Eversource or whoever it is. 10-year product saves about $500 a year. Over that 10-year life, you'll save $5,000, and you can put it towards your children, your education, your emergency fund, whatever it is. I live in Needham. I love saving money on energy, so keep it in mind. If I can help you at all, I'm in the corner. Thanks very much.
Hi, I'm Bill Wenzel Heating and Air Conditioning. 3rd generation in the heating business. Been involved with the Heat Smart program since day one. I do geothermal heating and cooling. Basically, that's our main business. We've done, in the last year and a half, probably about 60 of them. So I'm over here if you want to talk about it. It is a little more money, but a lot more efficient and energy saving. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. I've spoken at a bunch of these events before. My name's Joel from Boucher Energy Systems. And I have to say I've never seen this big a turnout for anything like this before, so that's great. Our firm has worked with Heat Smart since it started. We ran the programs for the towns of Bolton and Stowe, and also for Harvard and Hudson as well over the last few years, which were programs designed to introduce the greater community with a lot of community outreach to high efficiency heat pumps and dispel all those myths that surround heat pumps that we have here in New England. Our firm has been doing heat pumps now for between 30 and 40 years, along with conventional heating and AC systems. So we'd be happy to speak with you about that, and we are located up there in the back to answer any questions you might have. So thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Capuccio. I'm the owner of EDTR Incorporated in North Andover. I've owned this business now for 30 years, and I adopted heat pump technology back in my business about 20 years ago, and we've been doing ductless air source heat pumps now for the past 20 years, and we've probably done over 5,000 installations as far as in being in homes. We've been involved in the Somerville Heat Smart program. We're in the Cambridge Alliance program. We're in the Needham program right now with Solarize Plus, so I'm very versed on all of the programs and the rebates and the controls and things of how they get put together. So If there's anything we can do to help, we're here. We have a lot of information on our website. I've done multiple videos for information for homeowners, so if you please want to just visit our website at netrainc.com. We've got a ton of information on there that you can go and watch and get some good instructional things as far as what you need to do. So thank you.
Well, thanks very much, gentlemen, and now we, oops, sorry. Now we get to the fun part where we turn you loose from your seats and you get to talk to the installers, talk to the volunteers. Make sure you get the handouts we have, and also if you didn't get a chance to sign in, please make sure you sign in at the table right over here with Belinda. We have Concord residents, please pay special attention to the Concord light table and talk to them. Also, be sure to learn about Article 40 that is coming up in your annual town meeting. Any Wayland residents, we encourage you to sign up for Energize Mass and also learn about your program to go with community choice aggregation. And Brad, did you have anything else?
I was wondering if you wanted to mention the home MVP program.
Feel free.
Oh.
That's a brief one.
I just wanted to mention the program that's useful for residents here, that some of the installers are part of. It's called, it's a Massachusetts program, the Home MVP, which, where the installers try to save as much energy as possible on your project, so they really work strategically at that. And for people in Concord, it allows the possibility of zero interest loans, which is important for some people. And that's something you can find out on the web if you look for Home MVP Massachusetts.
We've got information here.
And so there's information about that at CMLP table.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And again, if you have any questions on the presentation, I'll be around. And thanks so much for coming, and enjoy the afternoon. Hope we get all your questions answered.
I don't know.